Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be solving another SQL problem. Problem number 197, rising temperature. Let's take a look at the problem statement. You know what, I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it better. So we are given table weather with 3 columns: ID, record date, and temperature. ID is the column with unique values for this table. Our job is to find all dates ID with higher temperatures compared to its previous dates. Let's take a look at the example. Date ID number 1, 2, 3. Looks like we have the 1st of January, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of January 2015. The temperature on the 1st is 10, 25, 20, and 30 respectively. And output, we will get just the ID of the dates that the temperature is higher than its previous date. So date ID number 2, the temperature is higher than its previous. Date number 3 is not higher than on the 2nd, on the yesterday. So number 3 is not in the output. Let's see number 4. Number 4 is higher than yesterday. So 4 is in the output. Alright, let's solve this problem. So the first thing comes to my mind whenever I see a problem like this is a lag function. So if you're not familiar with lag function, it is the window function that allows you to look back a number of rows and access data of that row from a current row. So for example, in this table, this is the current row, and if we look back one row before it, it's gonna be null. But if this is the current row and we want to look back a row before it, it's gonna be like 10, and the record date for it is this date. So if the current row we're looking into is 20 and the previous row for it is this row, so a lag function allows us to look back the number of rows that before it. So the syntax of lag function is lag, and in this parentheses, we have to put in the column that we want to get the value from the previous row. So in this case, we are looking at temperature. And another parameter which is optional is offset. So offset is the number of rows back from the current row from which we get the values. So if by default the offset is 1, so we will look back one row before this row, and one row before this row is this row, one row before this row is this row. So we can either put 1 or not, it doesn't really matter because by default is 1. And it's gonna be over partition. So in this case, we're not gonna use partition by because the ID column is unique, record date is also unique. Right, yeah, the ID column with unique value. So we're not going to use partition by, but we will need order by. So partition by here will divide the row in the result set into partitions to which the lag function is applied. But if we don't have the partition by, then this function will consider the whole result set as a single partition. So, and we're gonna order by record date. So the order by will specify the order of rows in each partition. So in this case, we are order by record date. So this is basically our function to put in the query. So I'm going to create two new columns with the previous temperature and the previous record date. So I'm gonna select ID, record date, temperature, and this is where we add another column for previous temperature. So it's gonna be temperature 1, order by record date, and I'm gonna name it previous temperature. I also want to add another column for previous record date. We're going to use the same function, but this time we're going to look at the record date, not temperature. It's going to order by record date, and we're going to name it previous record date from weather table. Alright, let's run that. Alright, so here's the result. As you can see, I just created another 2 columns for previous data, and because we don't have any previous data for this record date, the value will be null. And for this row, the previous temperature is 10 and the previous record date is this date. And for this row, the previous temperature is 25 and the previous record date is this one. And for this row, the previous temperature is 20 and the previous record date is that third. So now I have this table. I'm going to create a CTE for this one. So CTE is a common table expression, and if you're not familiar with like CTE, I would recommend you read up a little bit about when and how to use CTE. And in this case, I would use CTE because this is the table moving forward I will be working with this table, and CTE will act as like a temporary table. So I'm creating a temporary table for this one with the 2 added columns. So I'm gonna call this table previous weather pre-data as so from here I'm going to, because we only need to get the ID column, so I'm going to select ID from this table, from this pre-data table, from this one, because we are going to use this table moving forward. We are going to compare the temperature values from ID from pre-data, where, because we want to get the IDs of the date where the temperature is higher than its previous date. So where temperature is greater than previous, so the temperature is higher than previous temperature, so pre-temperature. Alright, so let's run this. Okay, so the output matches with the expected output, where the date ID number 2 and 4 is temperature higher than their previous temperature. Nice, so let's submit this one. Okay, so we are running into an edge case. So I only passed 12 out of 14 test cases. And let's take a look at the edge case where my query doesn't pass. So as you can see here, the record date is not, they are not consecutive, meaning we are missing 2012-15. So my query include, like, because this date, like, move, it's offset is one row back, so it's compared to this one, but the task doesn't want us to include that. So if the date is not consecutive, then we don't count that. So it should print like null. So there's no value for the date where they are not consecutive. So in that case, we are going to add where temperature is greater than previous temperature and the record date to be equal to, so it's gonna be equal to the previous date. So pre-record date, so pre-record date +1, so it's gonna be +1 day to match with the record date. It has to be consecutive. So the syntax for the +1 date in MySQL is date add MySQL. So it's gonna be date add previous record date interval 1 day, because we want it to be consecutive. So it's gonna be date add pre-record date interval 1 day. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, let's submit to see if I pass all the test cases. All right, I passed all the test cases. Runtime 789 milliseconds, beats 63.07% of users with MySQL. I guess that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I see you in another video.